Hello, everyone, and welcome to Café New Canadians. Café New Canadians is a virtual chat series wherein we discuss topics that matter to immigrants to Canada and would help them navigate life and work here. The topic for today's discussion, as you can see on your screens, is Youth Can Do It, navigating the stress and excitement of moving to a new country. Now, Café New Canadians as a series is brought to you by the New Canadians Network. And we have lots going on, so you can watch us on Omni Television. That's where we have a television show as well. You can also check out our content on YouTube as well as our website, newcanadians.tv. This session specifically is actually in collaboration with Next Stop Canada, and soon you will be finding out more about them and the services that they have to offer. I'm Shruti Dargan. I will be the host for today's session, and I'm so pleased to welcome 4 panelists who would be joining us. These are individuals who can tell you all about this program that Next Stop Canada has and about their involvement and how they've been able to help youth and other individuals in immigrating to Canada and settling well here. We're joined by Karla, Ledesma, Lara, Santos, Kuda, Muvevi, and Kathleen, Velasco. And thank you so much to all 4 panelists for joining us today. And of course, to the audience. I saw earlier that there's someone joining us from Nigeria as well. So a special shout out to you. And I can see, of course, that there are individuals joining us from different parts. So without further ado, let's begin with this session. And a quick reminder for you all that, of course, you can ask questions during this session to our panelists, and they'll be happy to answer all the doubts that you have. If you have questions, you can type them in the Q&A tab on Zoom. Some of you may be joining us via YouTube as well, so you can type your questions in the chat box. Now, as I said earlier, the topic is, of course, youth can do it, and there's no doubt about it. So let me begin with, one of the youth mentors that we have over here and get to know them a little. So how about Lara? Let's begin with you. Welcome to the show, and could you tell us a little about yourself?
Thank you, Shruti. Hi, everyone. My name is Lara, and my family and I immigrated to Canada from Brazil back in 2016. It was actually New Year's Day. So it was very exciting. And one of the things that I love to do here in Canada is go for walks in my neighborhood. There's a lot of open spaces and parks, and it's wonderful. It's just really nice to just go outside and be in nature. So that's one of my favorite things about Canada. And one of my hobbies is reading and also dancing.
Perfect. Thanks for sharing that with us. Karla, let's talk to you next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Karla. I immigrated here with my family in 2010 from Mexico. My favorite part of Canada is how I'm pretty much able to do anything that I want. You have pretty much the resources and people to help you do whatever you want to do. My hobbies include reading. I love also going for walks and just hanging out with my friends.
Thank you. Kuda?
Hello, everyone. My name is Kuda Muvevi. I recently moved to Canada. That was last year in July. I came for the purposes of school. So unlike everyone else, I didn't come with my family. I came here by myself. One of the things that I love to do is reading and watching, random stuff, documentaries to be more precise, and taking walks as well.
All right, so I see a pattern here already. Kathleen, how about you next?
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm really excited. And Shruti, thank you so much. My name is Kathleen Velasco, but a lot of people call me Kat. I am a youth information and referral specialist with Next Stop Canada. I am a second-generation immigrant, so my family did immigrate here just a few years before I was born. My favorite things to do, I'm not going to lie to you, they've changed because of the COVID situation. So my favorite things to do right now are to chill with my cat at home watching Netflix.
That's something that I think you're right. COVID has changed a lot of things for us all over. So thank you once again to all of you for sharing a little bit about yourself. And let's straight dive into the topic now. Of course, it says, youth can do it. And it's all about the excitement. It's all about the nervousness that one has before immigrating. You all shared at different points that you've moved to Canada. But I'd like to know, what was it like? So maybe Karla, I'll come to you first. Tell me about, do you remember, those days when you were preparing, or what was it like when you just arrived? Tell us a little bit about what was going on in your mind back then.
Yeah, so I moved here when I was 11, and so I don't really remember it because I'm 23 now, or turning 23. But I was like very excited. I didn't really know what Canada was. My parents were just kind of like, oh, we're moving countries. So I said bye to my friends and my family, and then I remember we cried because we didn't know what we were expecting, but then we moved here, and I like think that I've lived here my whole life. Like I don't remember my life in Mexico. I've only gone back like twice, and yeah, it was scary. I spoke English a little bit, but like not too much. So it was hard like making friends, but everyone was like so welcoming, and especially when English is not your first language, there's a class called DSL, so they like really take the time with you to like learn English. And I picked up the language very fast, so probably in like 6 months. And yeah, I don't know, I love it. I don't think I would ever move out of Canada. So yeah.
With what you just shared, there's so many individuals who are in that space, because when they're moving with families, and of course, and like you said, you were 11 when you moved, and maybe the most important thing back then was, how can I really leave my friends behind? And that is a struggle for a lot of youths as well, and we will be talking about that as well. How can one cope with it, and what are the kind of resources available when someone is moving? Because of course, parents and other elders in the family are focusing on a couple of other things, but for a child, it's a different ballgame altogether, right? So we will be touching on that as well. Lara, how about you? Tell us a little, what was either going on in your mind back then, or what was the initial days like for you?
So I had a very similar experience to Karla, actually. I moved when I was 11 and I'm 16 now. So I do remember a lot from like the preparations coming here. I remember we got an email or a call. My mom got a call while she was at work, and then she went outside the office to take it. And right afterwards, she called us saying, oh, we're moving to Canada. I'm like, what? On the same day, like that right there, I was like, kind of like stunned, like what's going on? And then that was like on December 13th, and we moved on New Year's, so December 31st. And we had that very short period of time, less than 30 days, to sell all of like our furniture, all our stuff, like get someone to rent an apartment. It was kind of crazy, just like things moving around. Like it was just so sudden that I really didn't have time to think of what that would really mean. But I kind of just thought the same as Karla, like, oh, we're moving, so I'm just gonna say bye to everyone. But I guess it'll be fun. Like Canada sounds like something interesting, like a new country. I don't know. And that was pretty like hectic, but at the same time exciting. I was really happy to be able to like live this. And like I remember my mom telling me like, you have so many opportunities there, and that was one of the things that stuck with me and what made me like really be excited instead of like fearing the change in my life.
Yeah.
And
Thanks
also
for sharing that.
I want to add that like the first year that we moved here in the summer. And so I have 2 siblings, and one of them's younger than me and the other one's older. And I remember for like 6 months, we would just go everywhere together, like my whole family. Like we went on the subway and the bus and like looking for places to live. And now we look back like 10 years after, and we still like smile, and like we talk about that with such like happy memories, because like we truly were here alone, and we've accomplished so much. So yeah, it's very exciting.
And that is inspiring to the others listening to us today as well. Kuda, for you, the move has been very recent and during something that we mentioned earlier, COVID as well, I believe. So tell us, what has it been like for you to, move suddenly all by yourself and to be studying over here? What was that experience for you, or how did you kind of prepare for it?
I'm not going to lie, moving during COVID was a little bit stressful, because I remember during the time period when I was moving, I had to quarantine at my port of in Toronto the first time. And now connecting to this side was really hard because I got my ticket, but it turns out I really hadn't paid for it, but they didn't say anything. So just like that whole thing, you're all alone and you have no one else to like guide you or like talk you through everything was really hard because you go through so many emotions, you're anxious, you're overwhelmed, and you're just there all by yourself. I remember at that time, I was like, oh, dang it, because I had missed my flight. And they're like, well, you'd have to go tomorrow. And I have to start thinking, okay, where am I going to stay? Because I called the place where it's supposed to go. And they're like, well, if your room's still there, you can come in. But if it's not, then we're sorry. So it was really tough. But eventually, I managed to just get through it. And what really helped me was that my family was like talking to me throughout the whole thing. So that kind of did help to calm me down. And then coming here, it was okay. But, going through 14 days of just being by yourself was really hard because you really don't have any sort of interaction with anybody. It's just you by yourself. But eventually, after getting out, I did meet some really wonderful people. It was a good experience. Leaving home, I would say the very first few days, I was just like, oh, well, I'm okay. But when the day came and it was like time to put the bags in the car and get to the airport, I was like, oh, I'm really, really leaving. And I remember I was about to burst into tears. And my mom just had to like hurry me through because she didn't want to see me crying. But yeah, it was a tough experience on my side. Yeah.
Yeah. Kathleen, coming to you next, we're hearing about so many different emotions and people leaving their own countries at a certain age or arriving somewhere during COVID. And as someone who is every day, interacting with individuals who may be in these positions or in so many different situations, what do you have to say about some things that, you've encountered, some of the top challenges that you see in youth when they're moving or the struggles that you've kind of come across in speaking with people?
It's a great question. A common theme with the youth that I've encountered is that similar to what the girl said, like very nervous. Some don't speak the language, so they're kind of insecure about that. Saying goodbye to all your friends and having to make new ones. I did have this one interaction where a youth shared with me that they were nervous about not having any friends to talk to, especially because he couldn't speak the language. So who do you communicate with other than your own family? But and Kuda, just to bring it back to you, I can't imagine how you did this all by yourself. That's such a huge accomplishment, and it must have been so scary. The whole time I was like, but amidst all that, like all those nerves and anxiety, the youth do express how excited they are because there's so many new things to experience, like going on the subway. It's just an everyday thing, right? But like the first time is like, wow, look at this whole new environment. Like it's crazy. I've never been in a place like this before. So yeah, it's a huge, crazy mix of nerves and excitement. And it's awesome. It's great to know that they're aware of how great things come with change sometimes. So yeah.
And Karla, coming to you, you talked about the excitement, of course, and you also talked about the language barrier that you faced initially, but then you overcame that brilliantly. Besides that, were there any other barriers or challenges that you faced? Of course, I do remember you were 11 back then, but so I wouldn't talk to you about that age specifically. But as you were growing up, what were some of the challenges that, or difficulties, I would say, not necessarily, that you kind of faced that you'd like to share with the audience today?
Yeah, definitely like not having any mentors, like growing up and like not knowing like whether I was making the right decision for myself and my future. Like a lot of people now that like have lived here for so long and like were born here, their parents are like, oh, my parents have this, and they have connections and like kind of like guide them through it. Whereas my family, obviously they grew up in a very different environment. Like I had nothing to compare it to. I couldn't really go to my parents and say, what should I do about this? Because they didn't know. right? And I still like face those difficulties now, but this is why like the mentor program is amazing, because you have people who have lived here for so long, and if you have questions, like you can go to them and ask them like, what should I do, because they've gone through the same experience. So I definitely think that was a huge barrier. Also just like so random, but like things that like people did here that I had no idea about, like skiing and snowboarding. I still don't know. Like when people talk about that, I'm like, okay, I don't know anything about that. And just things like that, that are like difficult, but like you pick it up as like you go through your life and your experience. So yeah.
And Lara, coming to you next, so Karla mentioned something, and I'd like to talk to you about that. There are also cultural differences, or maybe parents themselves are trying so hard, but the parenting styles are so different in the two countries. Or it could be that you're at an age, and I'm asking this specifically because youth or at that age, one's also trying hard to either fit in or kind of, gel with the other people around and meet the other young people. And when you see they're doing different things, or they're talking differently, or the slang's so different, what was that like for you? Or if there are any kind of experiences that you'd like to share as a mentor with Next Stop Canada as well, that you've learned from other individuals?
Yeah, definitely. So when I usually think of like barriers, I would think of, oh, I didn't speak any English before coming here. That was like the major thing. And like, yes, that's what most people would think of. Like when I say I'm an immigrant, they're like, oh, but you speak so well. Like your English is great. I'm like, yes, but there's other barriers, that there's other things going on that they're not aware of. And that's like culture is one of the really big like things that struck me when I came here. So it was difficult to make friends, and I had some connections to people. There was this one friend I made in grade 6, and she was like 3rd generation Canadian. So we used to like have play dates, and I would like go to her house, but it was so different, like vastly different from Brazil, where we have like these huge parties, like play dates last the whole day. You would spend the whole day at a friend's house, and I used to go to her house and we would spend like 2 hours together, and that's it. And it's like so different to connect. It's difficult to connect with people who don't share similar experiences to you and like know exactly what you've gone through. So whenever I meet people from other countries, or especially people from Brazil, it's way easier to form those connections and to like be comfortable with them and know that they know how difficult it is, and that if you make mistakes in pronunciation, or like even if they don't really get what you're saying, they will understand it more than someone who was like born here, or who may not have those experiences of like change and moving around so much. And especially with me, like moving schools, even in Brazil, but here, I think this is going to be my 4th time moving schools here, because we're going to be moving to the suburbs. So then I'm going to be moving high schools like the last year, and that's especially difficult to deal with. Like how do you form connections in 1 year? That's so little time. Culture, I mean, here people are very inviting. Like they're happy to introduce themselves to, and it's kind of easy to get to know them. But families, for example, my family, we have family friends who are all Brazilians. Like we have maybe 1 or 2 who are not, or people who my mom went to college with when we got here are also her friends, but that's it. It was pretty hard to make friends who are like 1st generation Canadians, or people who have been living here their whole lives.
And you touched upon a very important point, that the whole point of family is also kind of mixing with other people from their own culture. And how do you actually, because for the youth, of course, it's difficult to embrace a different culture suddenly, but it's also about kind of embracing it quickly, because you still have so much more that you're doing, and you're constantly interacting with other individuals. And for that matter, I would say Canada is a great place because it also has people from different cultures. So you don't feel alone. That is something that I could add. But Kuda, I would ask you this. What was it like for you? I mean, I understand that the challenges may have been different, but if I could ask you, what was it, say, something that you wish you knew earlier before you moved because you learned it the hard way here?
I would say, for starters, something that's really close. I wish I knew how cold it could get. That was a really big shock for me because I was not used to such really, really cold temperatures. So it's still taking some time to adjust to that, but slowly I'm getting a hang of it. I think that would have been like the major thing for me, just like the temperature change, and then also like just like how things are so different when you get here. Like it's like you're leaving behind everything that you knew about, and now you're like having to relearn other things and face new struggles. And I guess for me, it was because I was really not so used to doing things by myself. Like I always had my mom or my older sisters to guide me through it. But now it was just, well, you've been taken out and you're just being put into like this huge empty space and you have to find your way through it. So that was, well, luckily for me, I met on my first few days of coming here, I met a really nice lady and she helped me throughout every single thing that I had to do, like settling in. She helped me through every single thing and she just made sure like I was done and I was settled with anything. So it wasn't so hard to then cope with everything that was going on, because even if you needed help with anything, she'd be like, oh my God, like just let me know. If you do not understand anything, just like let me know. That was pretty much it. And I would say that with COVID as well, it was that kind of added to it, because with COVID, we were so isolated. So now you're back to where, like things are not so bad as compared to where you were before. And then you have to start making new friends and start making new connections. And then you've got that whole, like COVID toll that's just on you, where you've been by yourself. You don't really know how to socialize with other people anymore. And now you have to relearn all those things. That was also like another hard thing for me. And it still is, because I'm just like, okay, like when you want to approach, but like you have to shy away because you're like, okay, I don't want to seem like I'm being too pushy. I do not want to intrude. So it's been really challenging, but slowly I am getting a hang of it. And there's really nice people here. I've met so many nice people who just take initiative when they see that things are really hard for you.
Now, Kathleen, of course, we established earlier that all the three individuals, Lara, Karla, and Kuda, are also mentors with Next Stop Canada. And that is something that, they're able to, as youth themselves, be able to share their experiences with other individuals. Could we hear from you a little bit about Next Stop Canada's youth program? In brief, just to give an idea to the audience, what is it about? And then from the mentors themselves, we'll like to hear more about, the interactions they've had.
For sure. Next Stop Canada is a free pre-arrival service offered completely online. We are delivered by the YMCA of Greater Toronto and funded by the IRCC, so Immigrations, Refugees and Citizenship Canada. We provide settlement and information, orientation on living in Canada so that newcomers to Canada can hit the ground running once they arrive. The mentorship program is truly the gem of the youth program, because the youth newcomer youth get to have peer-to-peer support from youth who have successfully settled themselves, and they can provide that firsthand advice, support, and experience. So it's awesome. And I'm absolutely confident that these youth have amazing experiences to share, and they're just really awesome at providing that support. So yes, it's such a great program. And that's not a biased opinion, that is true.
Thanks for sharing that. So this would be an appeal to the participants joining us, the audience. We've got an expert here. We've got 3 mentors with us over here. So if any of you are in that journey right now, in the process of moving to Canada and struggling with a few, have doubts and questions about the move, or what is it going to be like once you're here, this is your time. Ask those questions. Don't be shy. Now, coming to you, Lara, I would ask you that, tell me about one thing that you kind of thought is going to be different here and didn't turn out to be, or say something that you didn't really totally expect and it happened. Sorry to put you on the spot suddenly, but it's something to think about.
I mean, in school, I knew that high school was different here than in Brazil, but what I didn't know about it is like how much it's different. Like the classes you take, you have to go around different classes and change classmates every time you have like you're in a new period. And then so like moving around the classes was something that I wasn't really expecting, and it was fun in a way because you get to meet so many people from like different backgrounds. And something else about high school that is different is that you can choose your own courses once you hit a certain point, and those are like your elective courses. And especially in grade 11, it's kind of like free for all, you don't even have to take all maths. You can like drop math if you want, like 3 maths, that's it. So that was something that I was really excited for, because I could really choose what I was interested in, as opposed to like where I'm from, that you have to take everything. You have to take history, math, sciences, biology, like a bit of everything, even like business. And it's stuff that you might not need in the future. Like if you know that you're not into something, why take it? So that's something really special that I wasn't expecting. But it's, a lot of people here don't even realize that how great this is, and they don't have like a huge exam at the end of high school like we do back in Brazil. They use your grade 11 and 12 marks. So that really puts the stress off my shoulders, because I have these whole 2 years to make it. If I get like a few bad marks, it won't impact my whole life. Whereas in like, if it was only one test at the end of everything, that's like the most stressful thing, because you're trying to recall everything you've learned from your whole life. And it's a lot to put on like a 17-year-old.
So what I'm hearing is that, of course, the school system is so different. Let's kind of also put in, like, try and understand what are the other challenges, or say what's so different about people moving from different countries. Now, we won't be able to talk about so many other countries, but you being representatives of your own, tell us what, in your opinion, was starkly different. Karla?
Lara mentioned this earlier, but I'm from Mexico, and a lot of Latin American countries, I'm sure Lara can speak to this too. Family is huge, and like your parties and reunions are like everything. Like there's like 30, 40 people. Whereas here it was only my family, like literally my parents and my siblings. So Christmas and birthdays and like big events like that, it was just the 5 of us. And it was very different. Like when people talk about like, oh, I'm going to my grandma's house or my aunt's house, I'm like, well, I can't really do that because she's like 10,000 miles away. So that was very different, and like not seeing them, like when we call them, they always ask like when we're going to visit them. And it's just very weird because every Christmas, like we think about how different it is now than when it was when we lived there. And it's kind of sad because like, obviously like those connections that you have with people that like know you cannot be replaced by people who like you've met like a few years ago. So that I think is very different. Like we're Latin American people, they are just very like, you just feel like a family, and like we've never been able to feel that with anyone here. So yeah.
And Kuda, you talked about being alone in this phase of COVID, and Karla also touched upon something which kind of borders with the anxiety, or how mental health is so important for everyone, of course, but then it gets affected when you're in a position wherein you are meeting new people. So you do have some friends that you've made, and there is family back home, but they're far, far away. So navigating everything all by yourself, would you like to touch upon the whole aspect of, mental health, or from your personal experience or with the interactions that you had with other individuals? Is there anything that kind of has stuck with you? An example, someone's story?
So there's really not much. I would say that what really did help me. So before I came here, when you go through, when you're saying your goodbyes to people, and then they just tell you, oh yeah, these are some of the things that can help you. And I remember one person told me that just write down everything that you are, like everything that resembles you. And every time you feel lost, or every morning when you wake up, just look at that and reflect on it. So those were some of the practices that I started to keep in touch with, and it helped me stay rooted and not really be affected by what was going on. And I guess also meeting a few people, because I'm from Zimbabwe, so meeting a few people that were from the same place as me. There were not that many, but it was like a little joy, like a little jump inside where you're like, oh yay. So that was really good for me, and it helped ease me down, because you could talk about the same thing, you could relate to the same things and stuff. And when you say something, it's someone who understands where you're coming from or where you're getting to. So those are some of the things that really did help me. And mental health wise, I know at my school, which is Memorial University, they do provide some services, people that can talk to you and stuff. And I also used to just work with various things that can help me just keep in touch and not really be affected by what's going on around me.
Yeah. So that's a question I see from the audience. David Singh is asking us, and I'll open it to all of you whoever would like to take it first. The question is, what did your parents do, or what could they have done to make you excited about moving to Canada instead of, feeling that fear or being scared? Would anyone kind of want to go first? Go ahead, Karla, please.
I think the easiest answer is to say that you're moving to a different country because you're going to get better opportunities. It's just for me, my parents knew that we couldn't go to university. We had stayed in Mexico, and here, I've been able to go to university and do things that I wouldn't have been able to do if I had stayed in Mexico. And I think that's one of the most exciting things, is that the things that you're able to do compared to wherever you are. I obviously don't know your story, but in my personal experience is that the things that I'm able to do now, travel wherever I want to go, have the jobs that I have, and know the people that I know because I moved, I wouldn't have been able to do that in Mexico. And so that's what got me really excited. But my parents didn't tell us till same with Lara, till 2 weeks before we moved. So there was no really room to be scared, because I was just okay, I didn't really know anything else. So yeah, I was never really scared. It was just excitement to my new life. So
yeah. So now you're in a position as a mentor, you're in a position to inform the others, So what would be your advice if you had to share something with the others now about, besides what you shared, of course, to prepare them for the move? What would it be? One piece of advice.
I would say that always be prepared, literally for anything. Do not go in with narrow-minded, because there's so many new things that you can learn, and just always be open to learn different things culture-wise, and be prepared to let go of some of the things that you thought you knew, because it may not even apply to where you're going to. I can't say for sure, it's a bit far-fetched, but back at home, so our road system is one of those, there's no, you kind of have to wait, and then when it's time for you to cross, the timer goes on and on and on. It's just when you get the opportunity to, you just cross the road, right? And with me, that was something that I really did struggle with that when I got here, because I was just okay, just hop on the road, it's clear. But then that was I had to slowly let go of those things. So there are things like that you thought you knew, but then it's always different in so many different places. Always come prepared. Never go anywhere whatsoever unprepared.
Yeah. Lara?
Yeah, that's like such a great advice. That's kind of honestly what I would say too, to just like be open to things and try new things. Like be open to like volunteering or joining clubs, joining teams, even if it might seem scary, like there's gonna be other people there who are also interested in that specific thing that you are doing. So that's a great way to connect with other people who have like similar interests or experiences as you. And like introduce yourself. For example, sometimes like the first day can be pretty scary because it's when you get into the classroom and there's people sitting there already and you're like, oh, where do I go? I don't know anyone in the class. So like one of the things that I do now, I get there really early so that I'm not the last person to get inside the class or like to not be able to pick a seat or anything. So, and then if you go in and there's like people sitting already, you can just like go up to someone and say like, hi, is it okay if I sit here? Is the seat taken? And honestly, that's the best way to just say hi, introduce yourself, ask people like how they're doing. Because people love to talk about themselves. They love to be asked about like how they're feeling. It's great to check up on people. Like that shows that you care. And it's a great way to start up conversations and make friendships and get to know people better.
Yeah. Taking a leaf from what you just said, sorry, Kuda, I see your hand raised. Is there something you'd like to add?
Yeah, just to add on to what Lara said, one other important thing is never be too scared to ask questions. Yeah. It would be like a good way, like no matter how, there's nothing like a silly question or stupid question. Every question is valid because you may not know, and that's completely not your fault.
Yeah. Go ahead, guys. You don't have to really raise your hands. Just go ahead.
And also piggy off of that, like, don't be scared to do like anything because like I said earlier, like you're going to look back 10 years from when you moved and think about like, oh, that was the first time I rode the subway. And like, that's so exciting to like experience new things with even if you're alone or like with your family. Like you're going to look back when you're like 40, 50 and you're like, wow, I moved here. Like that's so exciting. And like you can like no one's going to think about that one time that like you mispronounced something, like, and if they do, then they're not good people. Like it's like, don't be ashamed, don't be scared to do anything because like this is your life now, like why be scared? So
yeah, it's so great to see this kind of confidence that all of you are showing here, and because it comes from the earlier challenges that you talked about. So clearly you've all come a long way. And Kathleen, coming to you, but before that, Kuda, did you have something to add? Okay. So Kathleen, coming to you, and borrowing a leaf from what was said earlier, I'd like to actually talk about, and this is something that we actually bring up many times in some other workshops or some other webinars that we've had related to employment for newcomers with international experience that they bring with conversations, So any immigrant, no matter what age, when they move to Canada or to another country, there's so much that they have to do about introducing themselves over and over again, talking to people, presenting themselves. What are some of the things that you would like to share based on the program, participants, or your own experience, the advice that you have? So the challenges and the advice that you'd like to give for individuals and how they can open up.
That's a great question. Especially if you're a shy person, I get that. I'm kind of a shy person. So opening yourself up to people, especially in an unfamiliar environment, and introducing yourself, it's hard, but you kind of just have to let yourself get over the hump, introduce yourself to as many people as you can. And just like the mentor said, just be open to it, right? And no one's really going to be like, ugh, don't talk to me, and then eventually introducing yourself over and over and over again will get old. And so it won't be so bad anymore because you'll be used to it, right? And to touch on what Lara said, absolutely joining community programs, local events or meetups or things that you're interested in, I highly, highly recommend because it's such a great way to form connections. So yes, and that's something that we try to encourage our pre-arrival youth to do is once you arrive, get involved, try new things, volunteer. That's a great way to form connections and also build up your resume. So yeah, definitely don't be scared to make connections. It's scary. Totally. I'm not gonna invalidate how scary it is. It is scary, but eventually the fear gets old and it helps. You'll become more confident, hopefully.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So
And then-
Kathleen, sorry, was someone saying something? I kind of missed it.
Sorry, I was just
Go
gonna
ahead.
add something that Kat said. So there's definitely so many opportunities for like getting involved in the community, and it might seem like, oh, where do I start? Like, where do I look for these opportunities? So that's why it's something also amazing about the program. You can ask your mentor, and they'll let you know like where to look for, like what to search up, who to talk to, even share something that they might have done, and that's a great way to start, I think.
I'm curious. So, when someone who, a youth immigrates to Canada, they've been through some experiences. Now they'd like to give it back to the community by sharing those experiences and mentoring. So, Kathleen, how can one become a mentor with the service?
Reach out to us. Reach out to us. I do believe I could provide an email at the end. Yes. Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah. Reach out to us. Go on our website, nextstopcanada.ca, and we'll talk to you, because if you have newcomer experience, it's valuable to share, no matter what it is, especially as a youth. All the things that you've been through are interesting and useful and valid and so valuable. Just share it if you're willing to.
So is there say a specific quality or some qualities that you look for in a mentor when they're joining the program?
Quite simple. We're just looking for newcomer youth between the ages of 14 to 24.
All right.
And if you speak other languages, that'd be great.
Got it. Now, Kuda, coming to you, tell me about your mentorship experience. How did you kind of get involved with Next Stop Canada, and what was it like for you to kind of come on board and start helping other individuals?
Okay, so when I started, just like Lara said, just put yourself out there, try to join a community. So that was what I was trying to do. And then I just Googled it actually, and I came across it and I was like, oh, okay. So I read through everything and I was like, okay, seems pretty interesting. And you're talking to youth. I remember telling my sister, I was like, oh my God, like I saw this great opportunity. I could be talking to other youth, people your age, that's, people that can relate to you. That would be pretty interesting. And then, yeah, I just went through with it. And then ever since I started, I have had great people that I've mentored. It's been such a wonderful experience with me. Even the process of becoming a mentor was super good. I had Kat helping me and it was so wonderful. It was just, I really have nothing else to say about it. It was just so good. They take you through everything, help you, and they're very open people. So you can always go back and ask questions so many times. It doesn't matter how many times you've asked the same question over and over again. There's always going to be a response for you. My journey has just been spectacular.
I'd like to actually talk a little bit more about, volunteering and mentoring. These are two things that are encouraged highly in Canada, not just for the youth, but also, as you're growing up, as you're kind of moving towards finding jobs, or as Kathleen mentioned earlier, preparing your resume. So, Lara, what was the role that volunteering has played in your life, in your school life, and the values that you've kind of inculcated through it?
Yeah, so when I started, we had to go through some trainings, and we still do. We have trainings every month that we can attend to, I believe. So they vary from like skills like public speaking, like mental health, or like getting to know a specific culture or group. And it's so rewarding to just learn more about other cultures, because that's really how you can understand other people better. And I remember like I've always thought like learning and these trainings were so great, but now I realize exactly how they helped me to like get to know other cultures. I mean, so like sorry, I got a little tongue-tied, but
No problem.
My point here is that these learnings, I apply them to like my work life or student life, It's something that I can put on my resume, but not only that, it really opened my eyes. Even if you think that you already know so much about a culture, you can only know so much if you're not really part of that culture, you know? So there's always more to learn. It's not like, oh, I've been to this training like last month about, I don't know, like European countries or people immigrating from Europe, but then it's like, yes, but there's still more to learn about them. There's other aspects of immigrating that you can always like add to.
And Karla, coming to you, the same question for you. Anything about volunteering and mentoring? Because as I said earlier, slowly when you kind of move on towards the work life, or have you reached that stage yet wherein you've started kind of building your resume for internship opportunities and co-op placements and stuff like that? So what has your experience been there?
Well, that's kind of exactly why, because I actually got into law school yesterday. And
amazing, congratulations.
Thank you. But like, because I want to help people like find their path, because like I said earlier, like I didn't know who to go to. Like I didn't know how to like transition into high school. I didn't know whether I was picking the right courses or what I wanted to do when I grew up, because my family is not from here, right? So by mentoring, like if someone has a question about like what course I should take or what I should do, if I should enroll in clubs or whatever, like whatever, if someone has experienced that, they can directly like show it to you. Whereas it's very different from going to your parents who have not like been in the country. Like, yeah, they might be lawyers and doctors and whatever in their own country, but it's very different here. And so being able to help someone like go through that process, like it's so rewarding. And I only wish that like I could have had that when I was growing up, which is why like I wanted to be involved in something like this, because I want someone to feel like they have someone they can go to if they have any questions or concerns, or they're, scared or whatever.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Is there an anecdote that you'd like to share, or something that kind of stood out in your interactions with other youth?
To just like not be scared to try anything, like anything and everything, like just do it, because like I said earlier, like you're going to be looking back in 20 years from now and say, wow, like, I've grown so much as a person because I have tried to do so many things. And I think the worst thing you could do is to be scared to do anything, like either introduce yourself to someone or try something new, because you never know what can come from it. You never know if by introducing yourself to someone in grade 6, what that person can do to you when you're like 20 or 30, so just don't be scared. Like no one's going to think back and say like, oh, that was so weird, or like, no, like literally no one, like, so just try everything.
Yeah. And we will be concluding this session, but with some tips. So I'd like to now take a chance to kind of go around the virtual room here and ask each of you for either one of your learnings that you'd like to share. And of course, we've shared a lot of tips for the audience, but something that you'd like to part with, which is either a learning that has come the hard way, or a piece of advice, motivation, anything that you have for the audience before we conclude. So I'll begin with you, Kuda.
One thing I can say is that it is so good to learn about so many different cultures, and through putting yourself in a community, you get to learn so many things, and it's a quicker way of you learning stuff. When I got here and I started working, I didn't know what a loony was. So you'd hear everyone saying loony, and it was only like until I joined this program that I actually, like there was one video where like there was a couple of mentors that actually made a video about it. And I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it is. And so it's a great way of learning, that's for sure. And it's so good to learn about so many different cultures. You feel so good. And it's also a great way of just like putting your mark there. Like, like when you get somewhere, don't just be a number. No matter, even if like the mark is not grand, but you did something for someone, and that should make you feel good.
Kathleen, I'll come to you next for a question actually that has just come up. And this is, so someone's asking us, how should they react to abuse or harassment? And I'm assuming that is, once they're here in Canada, for the youth, if they come across something like that, how can they deal with it? Is there something from the program or a service that you'd like to kind of direct them to?
That I will admit that's kind of a tricky question, but definitely if I could say something, it is report it, because no one deserves to just endure abuse. So definitely report it, take care of yourself, always do what you can to just ensure your safety, whether that's mental, emotional, physical. Definitely report it and do what you can to keep yourself safe.
Thank you. And any tips that you had or anything that you'd like to add before I move on to Lara and Karla?
Yes, just if you do get involved with the program, definitely reach out to the mentors, because they are incredible. They're so enthusiastic and they have so much to share. They have such valuable experience and they really care so much about giving back to the community. And that's such a great aspect of our mentors. They're incredible like that. So definitely reach out because they're great.
Thank you. Lara, you next.
Okay, so something that I did when I got here, on the first few months after we found our condo that we were renting, was like getting involved with programs from like City of Toronto. And I know like many other cities also have these programs, like recreation programs and like after school activities. And so I've been dancing since like I was really young. So that's something that I wanted to keep when I came to Canada. But at the same time, I didn't really know where to go because, like, again, my parents weren't from here, so we didn't know who to ask or like which program would be good, which one wouldn't. So that's something that was like a go-to. We did a bunch of different things. Like we tried like dance classes, swimming classes for my sister, like skating. Like that's how we learned how to skate. And they're all offered for immigrants and for other people who live here also. Can take part in these programs, and that's something that I would definitely recommend to people. Or even if it's not with like the government, if it's something else or like kind of a volunteer kind of based program, it's so important to like keep in contact with things that you've done back in your country. It's not like you're moving, so then that means I have to like leave everything behind and like be a new person when I get to this new country. No, like you can still be yourself. So just like on a few months, it can be hard, but if you find these little things that you can connect to from like back from where you came from, that will like keep you grounded and keep you feeling
motivated and kind of
motivated. Definitely.
Yeah, thank you. And Karla, last but not least, asking you, what are your final words for the audience today?
Maybe to be excited about your move. And yeah, I think that's the best thing you could do. Like just be excited, and like Lara and Kuda said, like just try new things and try to learn as much as you can. I think that the way I learned English so fast was like by watching shows with their subtitles. That really helped me. Even before I moved here, like I would watch it in English. Like they would speak in English and then subtitles would be in Spanish because that's what I speak. And so that really helped me, and I would definitely recommend doing that.
Thank you. A big thank you to all four of you. You've been wonderful panelists, and we can only hope that through the experiences that you shared and the tips that you've shared for the audience, it has helped them navigate the stress and excitement of moving to a different country. Thank you to the audience as well for joining us today. This discussion was part of Café New Canadians, again, a virtual chat series that we bring to you. And we have lots more chats like this coming up for you, and to kind of know about those and stay in touch, connect with us on social media. And you can also subscribe to our monthly newsletter that we have, which will also provide you information straight to your inbox. You can see all the social channels listed here. Sign up for those. And what also you can do is follow us on our YouTube channel. There is a notification bell that allows you to never miss a video that we upload. So do that. And we hope that this session has been helpful for you. And you can, of course, share your feedback with us in this little survey that's going to pop up when you try and exit. Thank you once again. We hope this has been great and helpful for you as well. Thank you. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.